Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can check out at InsideTheBirds.com. They've got a plethora of things on that format, and one of them is the Q&A show with Quinten Mikell, Jason Avant, and Quinten Mikell is today's guest for today's edition of Football at 4. Get an opportunity to pick his brain, a little offseason stuff, post-Super Bowl with former Eagles safety Quinten Mikell from InsideTheBirds.com. He's one of the hosts of the Q&A show. What's up, Q?
Hey, what's up? How you doing?
Everything is good. It's good to have you, man. Getting a little now. Super Bowl's over. Everybody's in full off-season mode, I guess. But let's pick your brain on what you saw in that Super Bowl. Kind of like a slow, boring game. Good game down at the wire here, but man, too much up front for the Rams. I thought the biggest story in that game was going to be, could the Bengals' offensive line hold up, and they could not.
Yeah, it was crazy. The first half of the game, I mean, I thought the first half of the game was going to go much more towards the Rams defensive line. And actually, the Rams actually held their own in the first half. I mean, I thought that they fought well. I think the offensive line played well beyond expectations for a lot of people. But just in the end, it just wasn't enough. And once that D-line of the Rams know that you have to pass, they pin their ears back, and it's a wrap from there.
Now, there was so much talk about the MVP. I mean, you're a defensive guy, so you might lean towards Aaron Donald. But I said he was a game wrecker. I mean, that guy absolutely – and even if the stats weren't there, I mean, the guy just absolutely dominated. But the tackle he makes on 3rd and 1 from his backside to hold the guy from his waist and can prevent him from getting that first down, I mean, it was just an epic defensive performance from him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, he's a guy – that at every single play of the game for the opposing offense, he's a threat every single play. And you can't say that about a lot of people. And especially when you look at, the fact that Jalen Ramsey wasn't having his best game. The other defensive backs weren't having a great game. And, he just kind of put the defense on his back. And the guy's just fun. He's phenomenal. He's probably the best to ever do it.
He really is. He was fun to watch. I mean, the way he dominated that last drive of the game was just unbelievable. And then, obviously, I love to get your take on, a defensive player, played safety, a guy like Burrow, and just the game that he has right now with those weapons. They don't have a great offensive line, but for them to be in that spot, I think it really is a testament to how good he is and the weapons he has.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you compare the rosters, there's no chance that you would consider the Bengals to even be in the game at that point. And I think Joe is the prime example of one player that can change the entire look of a franchise. And the thing that sticks out to me the most, I mean, his brain is right where it needs to be. He's smart. He's picking up the defenses. He's making the right reads. He can throw the ball. He's athletic when he needs to. But to me, the biggest thing that I see from him, from a young quarterback, is his poise. I mean, even the fact I thought when he went down and he was grabbing his knee, I thought he was done.
Yeah, me too.
And he showed extreme toughness and poise throughout the rest of the game. And he's the Bengals. They picked a great guy in getting him.
And then there's Stafford, who I guess put himself on another level. I mean, the throw that everybody's looking at with him looking off and making that zip into Cooper Kupp. But really, it's a weird situation because there's always that dynamic, Quinten, of are you on a bad team or can you elevate a team? And people kind of looked at him. They said, well, he's on the Lions. And you'd say, well, part of the reason the Lions pick you is that so that you're not the Lions anymore. I guess he wasn't able to make the Lions something more than they were, but he was able to be good enough to win the biggest game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the way I look at it, I mean, yes, the Lions team didn't get to, a Super Bowl and win a lot of games, but first of all, he's not Jesus. I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? And on top of that, he put up phenomenal numbers on a team that their talent level has always been subpar across the NFL. So I think the talent was always there. I just think that it takes a lot. It really takes a lot to win a Super Bowl. It takes a lot to even get to the playoffs. It takes a lot to win a playoff game. And, that Detroit team had so much turnover in coaching staffs, had so many different personalities coming in and out of the building. It was just too much for one guy to really overcome.
Quinten Mikell's with us, Football at 4. You can hear Q&A with him and Jason Avant on the Inside the Birds platform. So what's the balance between talent and preparation to be a good team to win?
Well, preparation is what keeps you in the game. To me, I think talent is what wins the game. Talent is when the coach makes a call and it's supposed to be the perfect call, but the defense or offense has figured it out. That's when talent takes over. That's when you got to find a guy that's going to, go through the wrong gap, come through the backside, and grab a running back with one arm and bring him down. That's where you got a guy that can bull rush a 320-pound offensive guard right into the quarterback's lap. That's where you take a receiver that is normally a star playing in the slot, you put him outside and make him run routes, ask him to run routes that he's normally not used to doing against corners he's not used to playing against, and what Cooper Kupp did. And, you make a game-winning touchdown. So to me, that's where talent takes over. When the coaching stops, when the coaching and the preparation isn't just enough, the talent takes over.
So with that, you take a look at what's going on here in Philadelphia and the talent they have. Let's start on that defensive side of the ball. After watching this Super Bowl, if John Gannon, he is going to be back now as the coordinator, what kind of players does he want? Do you think he had the right guys for his scheme this year? Because a lot of people very disenchanted with the first-year guy, and we're almost hoping that he left. But does he actually have a good scheme and just didn't have the right players?
That's a tough question, and I feel like on our show we address it all the time because I think that you have to, as a defensive coordinator, you have to be willing to take some chances. You have to be willing to play aggressive, especially in today's game. And I felt at times he shied away from being aggressive. I think he shied away from using blitz packages and changing things up. And it could be the fact that he didn't have the type of players that he's expected to have. But, I mean, my thing is you knew that going into accepting the job. You should have known and try to figure out a way to overcome that. And so that's what my frustration is. And then, the other part of that question, building towards the future, is tough for me because you got a defensive coordinator that's already in 1 year doing head coaching interviews. So, what happens if he says, I need this player, this player, this player, and then you go out and draft all these players, and then all of a sudden he's off to another job as a head coach. Now you're stuck with players that he handpicked.
Right.
And, you're going to bring in a new defensive coordinator with a possibly different scheme. You got to start all over. So that's going to be a tough one for me.
That is a good point, is you start to build a defense for him. If he's not here, now you're back to square one trying to figure out what style of guy to put there. Obviously, you played, I think 2010 was your last year in Philly, right? So,
yes, sir, yep.
Were you guys aware at that time, like, we ain't drafting a linebacker? Like, that's just not something that did you know that? Like, is that something that you guys were aware of? Like, is that what these guys are, like, thinking, like, there's no way we're bringing some help at that position in?
Yeah, you kind of pick those things up as you play. I remember having a conversation, I forget who it was, but it's one of the older players. And, Andy, and I think it's been, talked about before, but Andy, his thing was he always needed one quarterback, a good quarterback, needed two good defensive ends, two good cornerbacks. I can fill in from there. So we always had the idea, listen, we're not going to draft a linebacker number one with the first pick. We're not going to draft this position or that position. But if there's a defensive end, a pass rusher, we're going to get them. If there's good corners, we're going to try to get them. And so you kind of know that as you play or stay with a team for a certain amount of time, you start to pick those things up. So, unfortunately, it still is kind of like that in terms of the linebacker position. It's a position that isn't going to be addressed in terms of being first pick, second pick. So, it is what it is, and that's kind of how this team operates when it comes to that position.
Okay, so Quinten Mikell's our guest here, Football at 4. When you look at this defense, are they lacking linebacker? Is that what they need to add? Do they need bigger corners? What would be the first thing that you think this defense lacks?
For me, the biggest thing, I think the first thing they need to do is address the defensive line position, and then secondly, the cornerback position. I think the linebacker play wasn't towards the stretch. Now, I think the last game, I forget who they played in the playoffs.
Tampa.
Yes, I'm sorry, Tampa. I think the Tampa game, the linebackers kind of took a step back, but they were on an arc that was in a positive way. They were seeing the receivers and tight end route trees. They were breaking on the ball. They were playing aggressive. They were making tackles. They were running through gaps. So they were starting to come on towards the end of the season. So I don't think linebacker is as big a need as defensive end. Defensive tackle, we don't know what's going on with Fletcher, and we definitely need another corner. Slay is out there. He's getting a little bit older. We just have to address the cornerback position. And I think that the safety position, I think Epps has stepped up, and he's going to, push for a starting job. I think he's moving in the right direction. Hopefully we can get McLeod back, but, he's a little bit older, coming off a knee injury. So I think the biggest positions for me, again, are defensive end, defensive tackle, and you got to get a cornerback that can play.
Yeah, now, obviously, you played safety. Do you see the safety in today's game as a different role than the safety position you were playing?
Yeah, it's much different. And it started to change a little bit when I was, towards the end of my career. Everyone's running 11 personnel, one tight end flexed out, 3 receivers, everybody spreading the field out, throwing the ball. And so you've got to have almost like a third corner or fourth corner really at safety. And, you got to have a good nickel and a good cover safety that can go up and match up with these fast athletic tight ends. And so it definitely has changed. You can't get away with, putting just one guy in the box and just leaving them down there in the entire game because teams don't do it no more. So you definitely have to adjust with the times. And listen, there's even some cornerbacks that are coming out that you could possibly move to the inside safety position and make that adjustment.
Yeah, it's like you wonder, Quinten, if a guy like Troy Polamalu, where's he play in today's game? Could you play him is he still you could use him at safety? Or because it sounds like you're almost like you just need smart guys who don't make mistakes, who don't overcommit. That's what they're looking for at the safety. They just don't want to get burned over the top.
Yeah, no, Troy definitely could play in today's game. He's one of those generational type talents, so he could play in today's game. But, you look at maybe a guy like Bob Sanders, who was a very, very strong hitter, aggressive against the run, but, kind of marginalized in the passing game. He's a guy that probably would struggle in today's game. I hate to bring it up, but a guy like Mike Lewis, who was drafted the year before me for the Eagles. He's another guy, big body type, that's more of an in-box safety that probably wouldn't make it as far in today's game.
Yeah, it seems like so many of the positions. You mentioned linebacker, but that position, like Jeremiah Trotter, is he playing linebacker in today's game? Where's he playing?
Trot in today's game would be on the D-line or he'd be in goal line packages only.
Right?
It's great. And even honestly, when Trot came back, he was only on the field on first and second downs and downs where we just needed him to blitz up the A gap. So the game quickly changed, and it feels like it's going to continue that way. And so, even the linebacker position is getting smaller. You got to have guys that can run, that are athletic, that can cover. And, the downhill, filling gaps type of linebackers aren't around much anymore.
Yeah, obviously they have the 3 picks. I don't know if they're going to make all 3, but you're a defensive guy. Would you advocate for adding almost 3 pieces on the defensive side of the ball, if possible?
So this is a tough one for me because, like I said before, with the defensive coordinator situation, with him possibly leaving, it's hard for me now to say, okay, we definitely need to build on that side of the ball. If in fact what Howie does say is true, and if in fact he does believe that Jalen is going to be the starter, I think you need to build on the offensive side of the ball. But if they do go defense, a guy like George Karlaftis, I love his tape. He's a guy out of Purdue. I love his tape. He's phenomenal. Cornerbacks, obviously Stingley, he's not going to be available, but if you can get, a cornerback like Stingley out of LSU, be phenomenal. Hamilton out of Notre Dame would be a phenomenal safety prospect. And a linebacker that I really like out of Utah is Devin Lloyd. The guy, he's tall, he's rangy, he can run, and he's just a complete ball hawk. He's a guy that I really, really like. And so, but that's wishful thinking. I don't think it's going to happen.
Right. You sit down with Howie Roseman and be like, "Hey, you going to take a linebacker? What kind of answer you getting there, man?" Of course I'm not taking. You know me, Quinten. I'm not taking a linebacker. But the game has evolved. You wonder if he's evolved with it. Or is this just an organizational philosophy that came from Andy, and that's Andy kind of ingrained that into the Eagles as an organization, and they kind of follow suit there. That's just the way they do it.
Yeah, that's one thing I'll say about Howie is that he does listen to people in his corner. He does collect as much information as he can. He's good at analyzing things, and unfortunately, sometimes the numbers can tell you the wrong thing. Sometimes you just have to put the tape on and just look at the tape, and kind of put the numbers outside your brain. But he does try his best, and I think ultimately. He sticks to his strategy. He sticks to what he believes in, what the organization believes in, pick-wise, and you can't fault him for that.
Let's look at the offense a little bit here, Quinten Mikell. They said they're going to bring back Jalen Hurts. Do we 100% believe them?
No, I don't.
For those of you who can't see him on the video, his face told the story right there.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I mean, it's hard for a GM in any position to, after making the playoffs, and then Jalen had some tough games. Jalen had some good games, some tough games, some good spots, some bad spots, and it's hard for a GM to come out and say 100% he's not going to be here, 100% he's going to be here, but. How we did do that. So now he's kind of tied to those words.
Which is rare for them, right? They've usually bounced around like, he's our guy right now. We'll see. Yeah. They were pretty definitive, both him and Sirianni.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like a lot of that stuff always is posturing, and, some of it could be, it's like right before the draft. It's like always right before the draft, you get all these anonymous sources coming out saying this, saying that, and it quite possibly could be true. But my inclination is, if this team wants to go past the first round of the playoffs, if this team wants to develop a strong passing game and to be able to really compete down the line, they're probably going to make a move at quarterback, because this team has way too many holes, and I think the quarterback position is such a marquee position. And it's unfortunate because I love Jalen. I think that he's tracking in the right direction. But I think right now, in today's world, this win-now world, I think that if they can package these picks to get a Russell Wilson or a Deshaun Watson, barring his legal stuff, I think that they would definitely make that move.
Well, you got that. Coupled with, we know how he likes to make calls, and he's got 3 first-round picks burning a hole in his pocket. He has to be just itching for the trade season to open up, right? I mean, he just almost can't contain himself. And there's options. There's a lot of options that are going to, you mentioned Wilson and Watson, and who knows? I mean, maybe Aaron Rodgers is excited and says, so he's going to make the calls. We know that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like being the prettiest girl at prom, right? It's like everybody wants to date you, and so you got all these picks, and it's like, all right, guys, come on, let's open it up, let's see what you got. So they're definitely in a strong position, and it's a position that you'd like to be in. Barring that you have a plan in terms of what you do if no one does want those picks. So I assume he's got 3 or 4 different plans ready to go.
When you played, one of the hallmarks of your team was your offensive line was outstanding. It seems that they've built similar type of offensive line where they can build a team because they have this offensive line. Like, you can be good because they're really good on the offensive line. Is this a line that you think they will constantly be competitive because they're good there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw it in this season, the games that Jalen was struggling, throwing the ball, coached out in that offensive line. And listen, they had a lot of injuries on that offensive line. They shuffled guys around, and they were in every single game because of that offensive line, the way that they were moving people off the ball, the way that they were protecting Jalen. And so I think that's a prime example of why you build between your offense and defensive line. That way, even though you may not have the marquee players on the outside, the skill positions, you're able to at least stay in the game, and you're able to, as a coach, be able to come up with a game plan that'll help you be competitive down the line.
Quinten Mikell, he's one of the hosts of Q&A. You can find it on Inside the Birds. It's he and Jason Avant who host the show. You could check that out during the season. By the way, one of the things that I think should be addressed, too, is that this division, you got to start making savvy moves. I think the Giants are finally moving in the right direction. If Washington can get a QB, they're going to start moving in the right direction. So this is a very pivotal offseason.
Absolutely. The Giants, you're spot on with that. The Giants moves that they made, bringing in Dable, bringing in Wink, Martindale, Kafka at offensive coordinator. I mean, the coaching staff is very good, and they've been making some sneaky good moves throughout the last couple of years. And fortunately, because I'm not a Giants fan, but unfortunately for the Giants fan, they've had quite a few injuries that kept a lot of those acquisitions off the field. So, barring those guys being healthy next year, they're going to make a tough run. And then if Washington finds a quarterback,
well, I'll leave you with this: is there a quarterback that you like in this particular draft? Like, would you say, hey, if that guy's there with one of your picks, you got to take him, or is this class not all that exciting to you?
So, am I the Eagles picking? So
yeah. You're the Eagles picking.
So for me, I don't think this quarterback draft is very good. The one guy that I do like is Corral out of Ole Miss. I think he's probably going to surprise a lot of people. I know he's got the injury, but I think he's got a very, very strong arm. He's athletic. He can move in the pocket. He's smart, and he's been well coached. You can say what you want about Lane Kiffin. He knows offensive football. So for me, if I have to pick a quarterback, that's who I'm looking at. All
right, Quinten Mikell, Q&A. By the way, is Tom Brady going to come back?
I think so, man. The way he's been talking, I feel like he already regrets retiring. So I think he's coming back.
All right, Quinten Mikell, everybody. Check out Q&A. It's on InsideTheBirds.com. Those guys are fantastic. Jason does a great job, and you, Quinten, have done an excellent job. It's been a lot of fun listening to that podcast, and we look forward to talking to you down the road, pal.
All right, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Quinten Mikell, Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. It is brought to you by Prop Swap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets, take your profit, find out how. Go to PropSwap.com. Quinten Mikell, he will be part of the Football at 4 rotation along with Jason Avant, Jeff Mosher, Adam Capel, and Andrew DeCecco. We're going to work the Q&A guys into Football at 4.